Welcome back. There are frequent discussions of the amount of gambling tie-ins we see with the National Hockey League with sports. So where does this eventually go? How much money does it end up generating? Well, apparently it's a lot because the salary cap's going through the roof. That's definitely part of the reason why. It's not the only part of the reason why. If you're lighter in your bank account, it's because ticket prices, right? So I figured wear the Monopoly penny bags jersey for this one. So 2035, looking 10 years down the road, and the NHL officially becomes the FanDuel Hockey League, sponsored by MGM Sportsbook. So that way, you've got two for the price of one. So you just take the national rate out of there, and it's the FanDuel Hockey League. Done. And as crazy as that sounds, if you told people 50 years ago that all the arenas would be named after companies, we would have been like, what? No. And the reality is, what? Yeah. So how would this work? Well, see, so now you got the FanDuel Hockey League. So there's a partnership between FanDuel and the NHL. The commissioner, I assume, could be, maybe it's Jamie Foxx. Sure, commissioner, sure, Jamie Foxx. We'll go there. Yeah, of the player of the people it could be. So you get 10% off NHL tickets for one game with a $500 wager with an officially recognized partner of the National Hockey League. And there's people who are going to watch this and go, I think he's kidding, but I mean, could it happen? Sure, why not? So you make a $500 wager and you get this, pop-up of, well, congratulations. Which hockey game do you want to go to? You get 10% off your tickets. Has to be two. You have to buy two. It's not off one. They're not that generous. You have to buy two tickets. And of course, at that point, tickets are going to be pricey. Betting tablets would be available at every seat. So you have a little tablet that's attached to the seat, and you can make bets during the game. You'd have your own login that's attached to your ticket, that's attached to your phone. So that way they can track you everywhere you go before, during, and after the game. Because, sure, that's happening already. And then for every $2,000 you spend on FanDuel, because it's the FanDuel Hockey League, right? You receive a call from a random NHL player. They don't want to be, having, McDavid after the game with, say. So you have to make 50,000 phone calls tomorrow. And they'd be phone calls, not Zoom calls, because people don't generally like phone calls. So you're not going to make it something they're really going to enjoy. And it's only for 3 minutes. And there's no confirmation necessarily that it's the player. So it's possible that you'd hear, yeah, I'm Connor McDavid. What's up? You don't sound like Connor McDavid. Totally. Dude, I'm Connor McDavid. Thanks for spending $2,000. I should probably get going. I gotta go, score some more goals and roll around in some more money. He doesn't sound like Connor McDavid, but he's rolling around in money, so maybe. So you can have that. That could be a promotion, right? There are going to be people watching this and saying, I could see that. And then you can change the name of teams. So once you've said, hey, the league's name's for sale, FanDuel can have it, then you can start changing the names of teams. How about the Sports Interaction Maple Leafs? That way, too, you don't just have to play out of Toronto. Teams don't have to be beholden to cities anymore. They can play wherever. Whoever's spending the most amount of money on the FanDuel Hockey League gets themselves... and I'm even listening to this myself, and I'm thinking, someday maybe, bet MGM Golden Knights. Because, I mean, seriously, MGM owns half of those casinos in Vegas. I think it's a little over half. It's between Caesars and MGM. So I thought, yeah, bet MGM Golden Knights, especially since T-Mobile, I think, is one of the bet MGM. I know New York is, which is right next door to it. And most of the casinos around it are MGM. So, right? And then bet 365 Blackhawks. Because the teams that would get bought would be the ones that would be the big money makers anyways, right? And you could have the DraftKings Kings or the LA DraftKings. And I think the LA DraftKings kind of rolls off the tongue enough that it's kind of frightening, isn't it? It's a fun thing to discuss. And at the same time, when I was putting this board together, I was like, I could almost see this someday where the NHL's like, we want to make billions more dollars. How do we do that? Let's sell everything. Everything's for sale. So, Sports Interaction Maple Leafs, it just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? It would not be the Sports Interaction guy, though, that would be related, because it's funny, because last year, the Sports Interaction commercials, he was always talking down to everybody. This year, They clearly learned that people weren't necessarily happy with that way that he had set that up. And so now most of the commercials involve him taking some sort of verbal abuse or looking like a goober, which it's a choice. You could also have wagering on 50-50 draws. So right now you have 50-50 draws that get millions of dollars in Edmonton. So you could just have like, here's where the tickets are from this number to this number. Where do you think the winner's going to come from? So then the NHL's making more money on the 50-50 draws. The 50-50 draws, 50% of that goes to charity. By then, maybe 50% of it goes to DraftKings. But yeah, then you can wager on who's going to win the 50-50 draw. Because why not make gambling on top of gambling? Sure. Hedge funds exist. Why not start some kind of betting kind of the further I dive into this, the more I realize it's a funny idea, and yet it's terrifying all at the same time. You could have poker players hired as GMs. Why not? Phil Ivey's running the Bet365 Blackhawks. You got Phil Hellmuth running the St. Louis Blues, who at that point would be... when people say too, when I do these, like, oh, you shouldn't tell people the names of the gambling. That's not good. Like, it's not everywhere. Like, I didn't even need to look any of this up. It's just because you see it all the time. So some other betting company runs the Blues, and you could have Hellmuth and Ivy during the game having wagers. And maybe that affects the outcome on the ice. Maybe in the third period, maybe the Blues don't come out. And you hear, well, Phil Hellmuth made a deal with Phil Ivey that in the event that... the Blues forfeit the game, then this amount of money gets won by this. Like, sure, why not? Why not? And so maybe you get a third period. Maybe you don't. Maybe a team's leading 3-0 after 2, and the GM's like, I'm just going to go ahead and forfeit this game because look how much money we're going to make. And anyways, it is kind of terrifying, isn't it? This is supposed to be one of those lighthearted videos, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I could see that. And then high-stakes poker tables in every NHL arena. And you could have, like, a celebrity poker player there ready to clean out your money. And so you go in, you've already paid, like, $900 to have an upper bowl ticket, and then you pay another $300 entry fee to sit down at a table so that one of these big poker players ends up taking your money. Shadow wants out. He wanted in to see what was going on in here. It's just cold. He wants out. And then I pet Shadow and he stays. So see, you can gamble on that too. There's Shadow right there. There's his head. So yeah, you can have high stakes poker tables. You can have slot machines available in arena bathrooms. So sometimes it takes a little bit longer and you need something to do. And slot machines, you can have them over every urinal and you can have them in every stall. That way, the bathroom lines that are already, I know in Vancouver they're scary how long those lines can get. So I usually leave with about a minute left in the period if I need to use the washroom because I don't want to be dealing with the lines. But just imagine how they'd be if you had slot machines in all the bathrooms. All of them. And then you could gamble from your seat on how long that line is for the bathroom. And they could give them little trackers like you get when you're at Disneyland. When you get to the front of the line, you hand it off, and then they know how long the line is. You can gamble on anything in the FanDuel Hockey League. Is that the future? Is that where we're headed? Because right now they're absolutely hawking the constant and it's mostly the American broadcast where it's constant, but the Canadian broadcasts are catching up a little bit. And if we ever get to the point where all of these are available all the way across Canada, we'll have the same thing here where it's constant gambling about everything that can possibly happen in a game. So how far does it go? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. And again, this is just kind of a fun thing, but is it? Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And throw in the comment section below where else you think there's extra wagering that I don't have on the board here that could be done. And what other teams would make a natural, like the LA DraftKings, for instance. It rolls right off the tongue. It's terrifying how easily that rolls off the tongue. How far does it go? And of course, with jerseys, it stands to reason that the actual main logo would be on the shoulder. And big old logos for companies and ads would be right front and center on the jerseys. You can wager on which logo they're going to wear that night too. Which sponsor they're going to pick for their logo that night. As we go further and further into this dystopian wasteland. 10 years down the road. We'll see if any of this ends up happening. I'm going to say no. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. It's greatly appreciated. I will talk to you again soon.